I'm sure there was quite a bit of smoke, and you sent me a video that kind of shows just how heavy that smoke was.
Yeah, so we were actually kind of going to my auntie's house just because one of the fixtures at her home, or like the shed, I should say, it definitely uprooted, and she needed some help, to tie it down and whatnot. And that was near where the fire started. So we had immediately had full visual of when it restarted again. From there, our family was like, okay, it's pretty close, winds are pretty high, let's get our stuff ready to go. And then not even that long after, maybe 15 minutes, if that, the fire was already on houses. And it was definitely an experience, to be witnessing that. um, the worry, all the different things that run through your head, you just kind of, it's like a fight or flight kicks in, but also at the same time, will we make it?
And that video that we're showing on your screen right now is the video that you sent me where you can see some of the smoke. Just explain to me what is going on in that video there.
Yeah, so at this point in time, my family, we're in the house. My grandmother's there. We're trying to gather, whatever is in reach, because obviously you can see it. There's really no time. That's maybe 2, 3 houses away from where we're located, that's the edge of Lahaina Luna Road. And the fire started on the opposite side of Lahaina Luna Road, just a little bit more upland. And so the way that wind was blowing, it was blowing at, a downward right angle from the hillside, which is in direct line of all of the houses that you see in the video. So while we were up there, at one point in time after the video itself, the wind just started gusting harder, and then the fire just raised up over the houses, and it looked like a wall of fire was just pushing straight through. And the density of that smoke, and the size of it, got thicker and it got bigger. So by the time I decided to leave, I was already driving through black smoke.
And it's one thing to see the images and the videos that are coming out of there, but I imagine it's got to be a lot different when you are actually physically there. How do the images kind of stack up to the way that, you're actually experiencing things there? Because again, it's got to be a lot, different to actually be there in person.
Honestly, I don't think the visuals that you see share more than what's actually happening, because most of these videos are just little clips. There are a few that were out there of people driving through the actual fire, visuals of things that they saw. I think that's more of the realistic type of images that you would see if you were in the midst of everything. For me, I experienced that. I drove through the neighborhood. It looked like a war zone. Things was on fire. I drove my car through fire, while this van and this house was, engulfed in flames. And while driving through this thick black smoke, I was like, 1, I hope I don't hit anyone. 2, I hope I don't damage my car, because now we're stuck and my grandmother's in my car. And then 3, what if this van explodes? All of these factors are all running through my mind. And do I speed straight through? Do I go slow just to be safer? And that's just one instance for me, right? Everything I'm sharing is my experience. Other people probably were driving through every single house that was on fire, every single car that was on fire. The wind was picking things up and throwing it through the air. So who knows what kinds of things were falling from the sky? Just preparing yourself for anything. We weren't prepared for anything. And the video that you guys saw, it was definitely like the initial, right after the fire started. And maybe within 30 minutes to an hour max, majority of that neighborhood was already completely engulfed and taken by the fire. And during that time, like I said, people are still trying to make their way out of a subdivision that housed almost the entire population of Lahaina out of one outlet. There really wasn't an exit route other than what we had, because the other one was just taken by the fire, or the smoke and the wind, the smoke being blown by the wind down the other road was inaccessible.
Have you had time to really process this situation? I know that I can hear some of the sounds there in the background. There's obviously a lot of people who are working to help and do what, they can here. Have you even had a second to really process what's happened?
I'm gonna be honest, it's really difficult to process, I think, because you're worrying about what's gonna happen next. Where am I gonna be in the next couple of hours? Will I have food? You can't just open up a door, sit on a couch, and be like, okay, I'm good now, because it's not. You're going into spaces that belong to other people. Yes, they love us. Yes, they want to take us in, but at the same time, a lot of the people from Lahaina, it's a close knit community. We're usually pretty much all there for each other, but now we're extended out of our community. We're pulled out of our community to now the other parts of the island, to where not many people have access to close knit community members that could be like, hey, just come on in. You've been here multiple times. You know, this is your home. Just walk right in. Now it's like, shucks, this family's taking us in and making sure that we're okay. We don't want to be a burden on them. Um, who knows what's going to happen? How long am I going to be here? What am I going to do? People are still in Lahaina, actually. Do they have power? No. Do they have water? No. Do they have resources coming to them? Maybe. The fact of the matter is, we don't have a connection as the citizens of Maui to our fellow citizens. It's very much what's happening on the west side, you only know if you're there. What's happening on the other sides of the island, you only know if you're there. There's a disconnect, and I know that resources are limited. So it's hard to even know if people are doing okay. There's so many family members that are being posted on social media now that I have service, and I'm seeing members of my community, parents of friends of mine that don't know. There's no way to even help, because what do? You're gonna have to stop somewhere at a shelter, maybe see if you found a name, or talk to people who potentially may have seen them. All of those things, but you can only do that in person. You can't do that with the lack of service that we have, with the lack of the disconnect that exists.
And you did describe Lahaina as a pretty close-knit area. Can you tell me a little bit more about Lahaina?
Yeah, so Lahaina, it's kind of like its own little island within an island. There's only one high school, there's one middle school, two elementaries, which one of them burnt down, and you're raised with everybody. You play a sport, you're with everyone from your school. You play a sport, you're with everyone that you're either related to, or that's your parents' friends' kids, stuff like that, or that's your grandpa's best friends, great grandson kind of thing. There really isn't much leeway in the lack of interaction, right? We're so close. There's only so many families out there, and we all know each other from basically being born. Your last name identifies who you are, and just saying that, they're like, oh, I know your mom, I know your dad, I know who your grandparents are, I know where you live, I know what street you're on.
And my last question for you here, what does it mean to you to see the outpouring of support that has been felt just not in Hawaii, but all over the U.S. and even internationally as well?
I think with what we experienced here on Maui, it is necessary that we utilize all forms of support. It's going to take a lot of time to rebuild. It's going to take a lot of time to get everyone back on their feet. And the amount of resources that are being offered at this point in time on the grand scale definitely will help make that a faster process. I did want to say, being on this end of the entire catastrophe that had happened, I've been asked multiple times, what can I do for you? What can I get for you? How can I help you? How can I support you? I think for right now, having the bare necessities is important. Majority of what we need is, we're a huge population of displaced people. There's so much, and we are, as everyone is saying, we're in a tourist place. There are so many resorts. There are so many places that can be utilized. Just being able to call something ours for a short term would probably be the biggest, most helpful thing to help get us back on our feet, just kind of grounded, because if we're not grounded, we won't be able to move forward. We won't be able to make the appropriate decisions, or we won't be able to have the necessity to heal, to grow as a community, to help each other, because that's what's important, right? And when it comes down to it, everyone in the community, we're the ones that are experiencing this. We're the ones that definitely have to support each other, help each other, with the hands of everyone else lifting us up, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me here. I appreciate it. I know you have a lot going on right now, so we do appreciate you taking the time to join us. Is there anything else that you want to add before I let you go?
One of the biggest things I think we're struggling with right now is the constant inbound flights of tourism that is still coming. Lahaina is shut down. If you do have plans to come to Hawaii, just please make the change. Give us some time to heal. There are a lot of important buildings in Lahaina that do need some attention and maybe to be restored in a way that matters, because it was a historic landmark. Lahaina used to be the capital of Hawaii. It houses a lot of our kupuna iwi, which is iwi kupuna, which is the bones of our ancestors, our chiefs, our royalty. So I think there's a lot of attention to detail that needs to happen first. And once we as a community build that back up and we're pono, we're solid, we're good, then everybody else can then slowly come back in and have access to, this place that was maybe once a very strong tourist attraction or a tourist place.
All right, Jordan, thank you again for taking the time to join us. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, everybody, and I do want to take you out to some of the video that we do have coming in. This is via Kath Ann Ambrose. It's coming from Storyful, and you can see really the fire, the flames there over in the distance as a result of this fire as it was burning. And also these are some of the aerials that have come in just over the last several hours showing the extent of the damage there in Lahaina. Now, we do know several folks there in Hawaii are evacuating, flying elsewhere to places like Seattle. I do want to bring in Matt Smith with our Fox 13 Seattle team to talk more about what he is seeing there. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Happy to do so, Josh.
Of course. So what are you actually seeing over in that area right now? Are you seeing a lot of people who are coming in from Hawaii?
Absolutely. The thing that's been so interesting here in Seattle, inside the Seattle-Tacoma International Airport where I am, is that you have a variety, right? So you have people from Hawaii that are evacuating the area, just trying to get out of Dodge, as it were. You also have a lot of people that were vacationing. I know your last guest was just talking about how they want people to stay away. Some of the people from Seattle that were there when the fires began or slightly beforehand actually evacuated, left the area early just to make way. All in all, it's becoming more and more clear just how devastating things are on the ground in Maui.
Hold off on your vacations until we get back to normal.
Blunt advice from people who live in Hawaii as they arrive in Seattle today. Some people fled so quickly, the baggage claim hardly had bags for some flights. On the island, the images are bleak. What started as smoke and flames has now morphed into a post-apocalyptic looking wasteland. What was Lahaina now is rubble.
I know a few friends that were evacuated. I also know people who've lost their homes.
Uncomfortable is a good way to put it.
Tanya Nathan and her husband Jason cut their honeymoon short, hoping to make room for those stuck on the island in the most need. They tell Fox that despite the devastation, locals were actually trying to help her.
It was all very fast and weird. I am just stunned by how they are handling it, and they deserve more.
Because there was people that were ditching their rental cars all along the sides of the road because there was no gas.
Jules Tony arrived for a wedding. The winds came the night of the wedding, but by the morning, the place they'd partied in just 2 days earlier was gone.
There was no power. There was fire trucks everywhere.
All the memories like that, all gone. The school I went to, elementary, everything.
Still, the hardest stories are from people like V. Kakal. He had to evacuate, and his family is still back in Maui.
I felt bad leaving Maui because I got a lot of family and friends needing help like that. Still thinking about it, I want to cry.
It's a hard time to leave. It's never going to be the same. I pray for the people who've lost everything.
And you can hear the emotion in voices from the Native Hawaiians who are here in Seattle now. It pains a lot of folks just to be away. They're happy that they got away, but also they realize the death toll continues to climb. Just the past hour or so, we learned that it went from 36 to 53, and they still expect that death toll to continue to rise. That is nothing to speak of all the people that had to be evacuated out, because this is just one side of the story, the folks that are evacuating. I also had a chance to talk with some folks from the American Red Cross, volunteers that are now heading out to Hawaii. They tell me they've got 3 shelters set up on the ground near and around Maui. They say there's several hundred people, because the other side of this is that a lot of the people that live in homes, the natives in that area, people who call this area home, they are multi-generational households. So you have one burned down home. It's not just 2 or 3 people, a couple kids. No, we're talking about several generations of people out without a home. We've even heard from some people here locally that when they got off the plane, they were saying there was up to 16 people in a 1-bedroom Airbnb, everybody doing what they can to help one another, but obviously resources are badly needed there right now.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here.
Anytime.
And what you're looking at right now is actually a live image from over in Hawaii there. You can see one of the shots that we have. This is courtesy of Surfline there. As he mentioned, I do want to go over what we know right now, and that is Governor Josh Green confirming 53 people have now died in the Maui wildfire, and that death toll is only expected to rise. More than 270 structures have been damaged or destroyed, and as search and rescue operations continue, Governor Green says it could be the state's deadliest natural disaster since a tsunami in 1961 that killed 61 people on the Big Island. As we get more details here, we will bring those to you live, raw, and unfiltered on Live Now from Fox.